Welcome to Beyond Our Focus. I'm Stefan, this is Amanda and Chad, and this is Breaking Prisms, where we go on over the obscure and unusual. Today, of course, is going to be the very first episode of The Twilight Zone. Spoilers for the 55-year-old show.
So, I really liked it. As we were discussing privately earlier, I feel it does still hold up well for its time. Being 55 years old, it was intriguing. It held my interest through the whole, what was it, 20-minute episode?
It was,
24.
well, yeah, it was 25 episodes. I was surprised. It's a little longer than we get when you see shows like this now. They're like 20,
right.
21, because we've added more commercials to everything.
Yeah. But it starts out, the guy, he's just in the middle of town.
Yeah, when he just starts up, he's just walking down the street.
Yeah. He sees a cafe, goes in there, there's stuff boiling away on the stove, fresh pastries in the pie display case and everything. He's obviously hungry, has money, nobody's there to serve him. Goes around looking, ends up going around town, there's nobody there. Seems to be the only person.
Magically, he's the only guy around, period.
Now,
until he spots this one person.
He sees a woman.
It does.
Across the street. In a delivery sedan.
Yes. He goes up and he's chit-chatting her away and everything and goes around and opens the door and she falls out.
It's a mannequin on display for a mannequin storefront that sells mannequins.
Yes.
And we have to realize throughout this entire time, he does not know who he is.
Right.
Yes, he has amnesia and has no idea who he is.
He starts thinking, just kind of going along like everything's okay, except it's a little weird that nobody's there. But then you start to realize he's kind of thinking to himself. The only one he can obviously talk to is himself.
Which he does.
He doesn't know his name
in this episode.
He doesn't know where he came from. He doesn't know what he does. He starts remembering some of this throughout. He remembers.
Truthfully, the last thing he does remember is he was just walking down the street.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know how he got there.
He said that...
He says, I woke up this morning, but in fact, I don't even remember waking up. I was just walking down the street.
Which is when we first see.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first thing he figures out about himself is that he is American because he has American cash on him. And so he's just like, I'm American.
American money.
And then he figures out that he's an Air Force pilot.
Air Force. He's in the Air Force, probably.
Because of what he's wearing.
Probably a mechanic by his dungarees or something.
And he gets extremely excited about this fact. He literally starts running around going, I'm in the Air Force. Air Force.
He was very happy about anything he could find out.
Yes.
Right.
There's
neat little subtle clues in there, even though it was towards the end of the episode when you ultimately find out, which we'll get to in a moment. But he goes into the movie theater and the projector turns on by itself. So he gets all excited running up there. But if you notice quickly in the background, it seems to be an Air Force propaganda movie because there's a B-52 Flying Fortress flying at you on the screen. So there's another hint. Granted, this is right after he finds out he's in the Air Force, which kind of leads to what the end of the movie is, kind of a clue.
Which unfortunately,
foreshadowing this.
My biggest disappointment about the episode, and that I really enjoyed it, was the end.
Yeah. I kind of like the end because, in a way, I could see that being completely plausible.
That's my issue with the end, is it's too plausible. That's what I have an issue. I liked what I've seen of the Twilight Zone, or what I've seen of like The Outer Limits, and even Black Mirror. I like when things are left a lot more ambiguous. When things seem really strange and there's not a clear definition of exactly what happened. And this goes straight up. Oh, he wakes up and he's been in this concrete box for 2 weeks by himself with nobody.
It turns out that it's an experiment by the Air Force. We're the early stages of us trying to put our space program together. And in doing this, these were usually one-person unmanned capsules sent up there, like John Glenn, first man to orbit the moon, by himself. So they had to test the psychological effects on these people before they initially committed them to these missions they're planning. So what this whole episode ends up being around and is revealed to us at the end is it's one of these type of experiments where they need to see what the psychological effect is going to be on these people or that are going to be on this. Mm-hmm. And they basically keep him in there until it cracks, and they've monitored all his vitals, blood pressure, heart rate, brain activity, all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of neat. I liked it because it's plausible. It didn't really leave much to the imagination, but what I like about it is it kind of, in a way, does leave the door open because it's like, what kind of weird experiments has our government done on our people, and it kind of opens the door for you to think that way. It seems kind of cruel and unusual, but has purpose. But it's like, what other stuff?
Well, they say, I mean, they're going to leave him. He's going to be by himself for 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
This is just an experiment, and everything we saw was his mental breakdown. We can see what he imagined as he was in there. But that's my issue, is that it's way too plausible. I'm like, okay, this makes perfect sense. It's all revealed in the end. We actually get this whole bunch of people, and I'm like, I've liked it just being him the entire episode. It's so lonely and so just one person, and then by the end of it, the last 5 minutes episode, I have a whole screen full of generals and press and what's going on and going to the moon, and I'm like, well, it's too plausible, and I like the strangeness of how everything was going.
I think at the same time, though, it's like, yes, it is rounded out, but I like how when they were like, what was inside your head? Like, where did you think you were at? And he's like, a place I don't want to be again. And they're pretty much saying, well, I'm sorry, you're going back up, and it's gonna be even longer. And then as they're sitting there carrying him away in the stretcher, he sits there and he starts talking to the moon. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like, hey, it's just gonna be you and me up there, and you're like,
don't you go nowhere, stay right there.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I don't think you should go.
If they broke you, I don't think you probably should be up there by yourself. We've determined that at this point.
But as far as the episode itself, before the ending, it was still really enjoyable. Like, you kind of wondered, maybe this is like a Man on the Moon kind of thing, or the Truman Show. Whereas, like, is someone actually watching him?
Right.
Like,
at some point, I had thought that he was in what was it? When they were like testing nuclear weapons,
that's exactly
fake places. I figure maybe he got lost somehow and ended up in one of these towns.
That was actually.
But then it started getting like, there's boiling and there's too much. Like, people disappeared versus like maybe just a town. That was my first thought before we got to the end. I'm like, oh.
That was my first thing. I thought maybe he was gonna be an accidental casualty of one of these nuclear tests.
I actually would have had just this huge explosion, he died in the end. I mean, that would have been interesting to me, because it would have been like, oh, well, that's what's going on. And I would have liked it more than the ending we got, personally.
Right.
Again, that was my only flaw with the show. Which still, again, it was, to me, a really good episode.
Yes,
I really liked it, but I just kind of like that kind of stuff anyways, the mysterious goings-ons of our government and stuff like that, the stuff that we aren't supposed to know about, that they are doing no wrong, but in fact they're doing some really weird stuff. Yeah, so I did kind of like that angle of it, even though it's just kind of left nothing to the imagination by the end.
Well, I would have, if the episode would have been about that particularly, I would have been interested. But it wasn't about that necessarily, it was just about his mind breaking and then us finding out what's going on, which I enjoyed that aspect of it. I just didn't enjoy the, let's just completely ground this back in reality. Like, but I'm a huge component of just really supernatural stuff. I like science fiction. Yeah. I love science fiction. I love when things are really strange and weird, and maybe we don't get an explanation, or maybe basically the end of Inception.
Yeah.
Like, yes, no, yes, no. What really happened?
Okay, well, here's the question then. What would you have done if you were in his place? If you remember going to sleep or something, but you don't remember waking up, you're just suddenly walking down a stretch of road.
That's a great question. I mean, in this day and age, we have a lot of technology. So, and when he was doing this, there was no way for him to find anything from the outside world at all. But it essentially was a dream.
Well, he did try the telephone.
The telephone.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
It was automatic.
Couldn't get a hold of the operator. But us is like, I have a cell phone. I have internet. I have...
The equivalent in modern day would probably be like, I can't get a signal anywhere.
Exactly.
It reminded me
But I can't imagine doing anything much different than what he did. Maybe not... I don't know how excited I would get finding out what job I have. I work in...
I work this job. Yes.
And it's like, oh, well.
But then again, if you know absolutely nothing of yourself, would it be kind of a revelation, something to be excited about that? I just remember something, maybe I can remember more.
Yeah, it was interesting that he in his delusion, he had amnesia.
Yeah.
And he remembered nothing about himself.
That is kind of strange, because you'd think that'd be the one thing you would have, being that... I don't know, unless you're really starting to forget yourself at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. It was a little strange. Like, I don't know if you would just... It's odd in his delusion, he didn't remember who he was.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, though, as far as you saying, like, we have more technology and not, like, it would be us not getting signals, him being on the phone reminds me of the movie Oculus. I don't know if you've seen it. It is about a mirror.
I've got nothing.
Okay. Well, at one point in time, these kids are... this mirror is pretty much trapping them in a house. And so these kids are calling on the phone. They're saying, hey, like, we're trying to get a doctor or whatever. And they're like, can you put your dad on the phone or something like that? And then they call again and they're like, hey, and we need some help. And once again, it's the exact same voice saying the exact same thing. And it's repeating itself. And you're just kind of like, it's one of those movies where they can, like, run out of a house and they are in a different room of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So
that seems very interesting.
Yeah. It was actually a very good movie. Also on Netflix. Yes.
Also
on
Netflix.
Netflix.
Go on Netflix.
But yes. It has, I can't remember her name. She played Amy Pond on Doctor Who. And she's
watch Doctor Who. I've
she's
got nothing on that.
She's the redhead in Jumanji.
Okay, well, I know who that is.
Well, there you go.
Oh, she's also Blue Chick from Guardians.
Yes, I can't remember her name. Blue Chick. Nebula.
Nebula, yeah. I don't remember her name either. I immediately remember her name from that.
Blue
Where she
Chick.
flew, and she's from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, that's her. But yes, it's her and her brother going back to the house they grew up in because the sister is convinced that the mirror needs to be destroyed.
Quite interesting.
Yes.
Well, final thoughts on the actual episode. I think everyone enjoyed it quite a bit.
I did. I liked it in all aspects.
And we'll decide if we're going to do episode 2 or move on to something a little different. I want these guys have never watched Black Mirror. I've seen all of it. So I'd love to discuss the Black Mirror. Because I love Black Mirror. Longer episodes though. They're an hour.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But they're really cool. But the first episode's, well, it's dark.
Yeah,
it's really, really, really dark. A lot darker than I think Twilight Zone gets. But
yeah.
really good. So maybe we'll flip-flop back and forth. But we'll make the decision, and next week you'll find out whatever that may be. All right. Well, that is the end of the show. That's everything we've got. If you want to reach the show, you can do that at Beyond Our Focus on Twitter. We also have an Instagram, the same thing. There's nothing on these currently, but if you want to reach us, you can do it there. You want to reach me? I'm at BGG Gamer. These guys, I don't know if they want to pimp anything out or not.
I'm at Twitter at KZPup.
All right.
I'm still a work in progress. I'll get back.
Work in progress. Maybe every night we'll have something.
I don't know.
And that is it. So if you enjoyed, please leave a comment down below. Leave a like. If you didn't enjoy, put a thumbs down.
If there's anything we improve on, let us know.
Please let us know.
Also, next week, if you're interested to know, we're going to be moving on to the extraterrestrials.
Yes, next week's theme will be extraterrestrial. So hopefully spacey and alien type stuff will be next week. But until next time, be well.
See you guys.